Arabify, the instant identity converter. Tired of your pesky indigenous identity? Want to feel superior without earning it? Introducing Arabify, the world's first identity conversion kit. With just one sip of imported holy water, you too can forget your language, your ancestors, and your gods, all in under 60 seconds. No more embarrassing cultural pride, no more confusing traditions. Just pure, refined Arab excellence, colonization that feels like salvation. Arabify, because why be yourself when you can be someone else's favorite subject? Available wherever cultural amnesia is sold. Terms and conditions apply. May cause loss of memory, nationalism, and self-respect. Arabify, submit beautifully. Lose yourself in seconds.
Arabia Corp, transforming identities since 640 AD. Welcome to Arabia Corp, where your identity is our business. For over 1,300 years, Arabia Corp has proudly delivered premium-grade cultural conversions across Africa and Asia. From Egypt to India, from Sudan to Sindh, if there was a culture, we found a way to improve it by replacing it entirely. Swap your indigenous name for something more obedient, or simply forget who your ancestors were. Arabia Corp has a package designed just for you. Arabify, Hijabify, Umma Sync, Identity Shredder, all beautifully boxed, all suspiciously shiny. Our patented submission suite technology guarantees a complete cultural override in under 90 days, or your identity back. For centuries, our solutions have helped communities forget their gods, abandon their languages, and proudly defend the empire that erased them. Because at Arabia Corp, we don't just colonize land, we colonize you. Disclaimer: side effects may include sudden Arab supremacy, denial of African or Asian heritage, accidental defending of medieval empires online, loss of pre-Islamic memory, and believing the Caliphate was a humanitarian NGO. Arabia Corp, transforming identities since 640 AD.
The beginning of the takeover, Kemet, 640 AD. Let's start in the sands of Kemet, 640 AD. Europe hadn't even fully recovered from Rome collapsing, and Africa was in her stride. Ancient Kemet still alive, Nubia thriving, Aksum strong. Then out of Arabia a storm came, a storm carrying a book and a blade. Arabs invade Kemet, and don't let anyone tell you it was some peaceful invitation. That's revisionist nonsense. General Amr ibn al-As marched in with armies under the banner of Islam. Alexandria was captured. The great library, the seat of knowledge, burnt. Indigenous Kemites were forced into submission, pay the jizya tax, convert or get crushed. And here's the most insulting part. After invading and colonizing, the Arabs had the audacity to steal the Kemetic identity. For centuries, Arab Muslims have dressed themselves in Kemet stolen robes, as if Nephthys was their goddess, as if the pharaohs shared their bloodline. That's like someone breaking into your house, burning it down, and then showing up at a party introducing themselves as the real homeowner. Today, you'll find entire populations in Kemet calling themselves Arabs. Imagine the colonization so deep, so complete, that people no longer even see themselves as indigenous. That's the ultimate theft, not just land but identity. And Kemet was only the beginning. Once the Arabs had a taste of conquest, they didn't stop. North Africa, Arabization of the Maghreb. From Kemet, the Arabs pushed west into Libya, Numidia, and Mauritania, the Maghreb. The Berber peoples fought back fiercely, but by the 8th century, most of North Africa was under the Islamic Caliphate. Let's be clear, the Arab conquest wasn't just about spreading religion, it was about Arab supremacy. Islam became the tool. Indigenous faiths wiped out, ancient temples abandoned or destroyed, Berber culture, absorbed and rewritten in Arabic. By the 12th century, North Africa was thoroughly Arabized. Think about that. Whole nations stripped of their original identity, swallowed by an empire that claimed we're all equal under Islam, while conveniently putting Arabs at the top of the food chain. And here's the tea. The same Brotherhood of Islam that North African converts believed in was betrayed when Arabs still called them second class, still married into their communities to erase their heritage, still referred to real Islam as Arabic Islam, colonisation with extra steps. East Africa, Sudan and Somalia. Now swing east, Sudan, Somalia, the Horn of Africa. Sudan today is one of the clearest examples of Arab colonisation. Centuries ago, Nubia was powerful, Christian, independent, but Arab invasions pushed south, mixing conquest with slave raids. Arab men took African women. Over time, Sudan was Arabized, Islamized, and the Nubian identity suppressed. The so-called Arabs of Sudan, they're African descendants who've been taught to see themselves as Arab. That's mental colonization so strong you could bottle it. Somalia, same pattern, once proudly Cushitic, trading across the Indian Ocean with their own beliefs and systems. Arabs came, Islam followed, and over time, Somalis were Arabized. Now you have entire Somali communities defending the very colonization that erased their indigenous culture. Stockholm Syndrome in real time. Asia, Persia, India, Pakistan and Bengal. Now here's where the story gets brutal, because Arabs didn't stop in Africa. They took their conquest east, into Persia, into Central Asia, and eventually into India. Persia, home of Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest religions. Arabs stormed in during the 7th century, and Zoroastrians were crushed under forced conversion. People of the book had to pay the jizya tax, but pagan traditions burned out. Iran today is Islamic, but that's not its roots. Its roots are fire temples, not mosques. Its heritage is Cyrus the Great, not the Caliph. But India, India was the jewel Arabs wanted. The first Arab invasion came in 711 AD, led by Muhammad bin Qasim. The Arabs swept into Sindh, modern-day Pakistan, with armies, temples destroyed, thousands slaughtered, women taken as concubines, Hindu and Buddhist populations terrorized. It wasn't spiritual enlightenment, it was colonial conquest. And the invasions didn't stop there. For centuries, waves of Islamic rulers, Arabs, Persians, Turks, descended on the Indian subcontinent. The Delhi Sultanate, the Mughal Empire. Entire cities like Multan were turned into centers of Islamic power after its sun temple was smashed. Nalanda University, one of the world's greatest centers of learning, burned by Muslim invaders, scholars murdered, texts destroyed. And the legacy? Pakistan and Bangladesh. Those aren't ancient nations, they're the products of Islamic colonization, carved out of India by centuries of forced Islamization. Those populations weren't always Muslim. They were made Muslim, through sword, through coercion, through colonization. That's why to this day you'll find people in Pakistan saying, we're not Indian, we're Muslim. That's Arab colonial propaganda still working 1300 years later. Ideology as colonization. Why Islam erases the past. Now here's where the con really bites. It's not just that Arabs marched in, swung swords, and forced conversions. It's the psychological hack built into Islam that makes colonization permanent, the erasure of history. Islam teaches that nationalism is haram. Pride in your pre-Islamic identity? Blasphemy. The Quran literally labels pre-Islamic culture as Jahiliyyah, the age of ignorance. So the moment you convert, your entire ancestral history gets filed under trash. Think about how genius and how evil that is. The Roman Empire conquered people but often let them keep their gods, their languages, their traditions. Arabs said, nope, not only will you obey us, but we'll make you hate what you were before us. This is why Persians who once lit fire in Zoroastrian temples now call themselves defenders of an Arab book. Why North Africans stopped speaking Tamazight in the markets and switched to Arabic. why Somalis trace their noble heritage back to Arabian bloodlines instead of their own Cushitic ancestors. Islam doesn't just conquer land, it colonizes memory. It implants shame about anything that isn't Arab approved. That's why today you'll hear Muslims saying things like, "We don't need nationalism, Islam is our identity." Convenient, because without nationalism, without cultural pride, you'll never rebel against the empire that stole you. You'll think obedience is liberation, you'll call slavery submission, and submission salvation. And the worst part? This conditioning gets passed down for generations. Your grandma was told her pre-Islamic ways were devil worship. Your parents were taught your ancient history was filth. And now you grow up thinking your ancestors were nobodies until the Arabs showed up with a book. That's not just colonization. That's gaslighting on a civilizational scale. The modern consequences: Arab supremacy in black skin. Fast forward to today. Look around Africa. Look around Asia. You'll see black Africans calling themselves Arabs in Sudan. Somalis policing each other over Islamic modesty, not realizing their grandmothers wore indigenous dress long before Islam. Nigerians fighting Boko Haram, a group that literally thinks Arab supremacy is worth killing for. Whole communities now defend Islam harder than Arabs themselves. If you dare question it, they'll come for you with more venom than they'd ever reserve for European colonizers. That's how deep the brainwash goes. People don't just accept colonization, they become the colonizers' unpaid soldiers. Take Pakistan. The name itself means land of the pure. Pure what? Purely Arabized, purely Islamic. A country carved out of India in 1947, but the seeds were planted centuries earlier when Arabs invaded Sindh. Generations forced into Islam until they no longer saw themselves as Indians, but as something better, Muslims. Bangladesh, same story. Bengal was Buddhist and Hindu long before the Arabs and later Turkic Muslims stormed in. Now, Arabized names, Islamic laws, entire generations who think their ancestors were savages until the sword of Islam saved them. This is the greatest trick Islam ever pulled, turning colonized people into guardians of their own chains. Black Muslims defending Arab supremacy. South Asian Muslims defending the very empire that enslaved their ancestors. It's like watching someone polish the boots that are standing on their neck. Decolonization means cutting Arabia loose. Africa's chains are not just European. Yes, Europe carved the continent, looted it, enslaved millions. But Europe wasn't the first, and it wasn't the only. Arabs got there a millennium earlier. They erased Kemet. They Arabized the Maghreb. They cut into Nubia. They colonized Somalia. They reached across the Sahara to enslave millions of East Africans long before the Atlantic slave trade. And in Asia, they burned Persia. They tore through India. They rewrote whole cultures into Arabic footnotes. Pakistan and Bangladesh exist today as monuments to that colonization. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Africa and Asia cannot be free until they've broken from both crosses and crescents. Neither Christianity nor Islam belong to the soil of Africa. Neither are native to Asia outside Arabia. Both are imports. Both are chains. True freedom means remembering who you were before they arrived. It means relearning your languages, your traditions, your ways of seeing the world. It means ripping Arab colonization out by the roots. Because until we do, we'll still be slaves, just not to the whip and chain, but to the verse and prayer, and that, my friends, is the truth no one wants to say out loud. But here, we say it with our chest. The modern fallout, Arab supremacy in the present day. Let's be honest, colonization isn't just about armies, it's about psychology, and the most dangerous colonization is the one you defend yourself. That's where we are today with Islam across Africa and Asia. Whole communities living under the shadow of Arab supremacy, not even realizing it. The invasion was centuries ago, but the mental empire is alive and well. The slave trade we don't talk about. Europe gets hammered for the transatlantic slave trade, and it should, but the Arab slave trade somehow swept under the rug. From the 7th century right up to the 20th, Arabs enslaved millions of black Africans. Where's that in the school books? Where are the movies? Where's the Netflix mini-series about Arab slave traders castrating black boys before marching them across the desert? Silence, because to admit it would shatter the illusion that Islam liberated Africa, and the psychological trick is still working. To this day, many African Muslims will rage if you bring it up, not at the Arabs, but at you, for daring to point out their colonizers weren't just white Europeans. That's colonization so deep it polices itself. The language of chains. Look at language. Across North Africa, Arabic dominates. Berber languages pushed to the margins, kept alive only in mountain villages and activist movements. In Sudan, Arabic is state language, even though the majority are African by ancestry. In Somalia, Arabic is taught as a noble tongue, the language of the Quran, more respected than Cushitic languages. Think about that. Whole nations convinced that their indigenous tongue is inferior, while Arabic is holy. That's not just colonization, that's worshipping the language of your conquerors. And it's not just Africa. In Pakistan and Bangladesh, Arabic names dominate. Mosques blare sermons in Arabic phrases most worshippers don't even understand. A Bengali farmer may not speak a word of Arabic fluently, but he'll chant it in prayer every day, convinced that the words of his ancestors are dirt compared to the imported tongue of his colonizers. Arab beauty standards and identity theft. Colonization also creeps in through beauty and self-image. Across Sudan, Somalia, and North Africa, lighter skin is prized. Arab features are seen as noble. Centuries of mixing, often through coercion, have created elites who claim Arab lineage and use it to justify their status. It's the same trick everywhere. Convince the colonized that the closer they resemble their conquerors, the higher their worth. That's why in Sudan, people who are visibly black still call themselves Arabs. That's why in Pakistan, entire families brag about some distant ancestor from Arabia. Colonization written into the bloodline and defended as a badge of honor. Religion as a colonial firewall. And let's not forget religion itself. Islam tells Muslims that the highest loyalty isn't to your nation, your culture, or your ancestors, but to the global ummah. On paper, that sounds nice. Unity, equality, solidarity. But in practice, it means your heritage takes a back seat to Arab supremacy. If you're African and you start talking about reviving your indigenous traditions, you'll be told it's haram. If you're South Asian and you mention celebrating pre-Islamic history, you'll be called a kafir. It's not accidental, it's the design. Erase the old, glorify the Arab. And so the firewall holds. Whole populations unable to see their colonization because the colonization itself tells them questioning it is sin. That's checkmate. The gatekeepers of Arab supremacy. Here's the bitter irony. The fiercest defenders of Arab supremacy today are not Arabs. They're the Arabized Africans and Asians. Sudanese elites will scream Arab identity while whipping Africans in Darfur. Pakistani politicians will fly to Saudi Arabia to kiss the ring, calling it the motherland. Somali clerics will import Arab-style laws and punishments, even when they don't fit Somali culture. These aren't free nations. They're outposts, colonies that never broke away. And when someone speaks against it, it's not Arabs who rush in first to silence them. It's their fellow Africans, their fellow Asians, Muslims who've been so colonized they guard the empire tighter than the empire ever could. The Arab world's double standards. Let's also be real. Arabs themselves don't even see Africans and Asians as equals. In the Gulf states today, African and South Asian workers are treated like disposable labor. They build skyscrapers in Dubai, die in the heat, and their bodies are flown home in silence. Where's the brotherhood of Islam then? Where's the equality? It's hierarchy, plain and simple. Arabs on top, everyone else below. And the tragedy is that millions of Africans and Asians defend the very system that spits on them. The cost of silence. The biggest danger in all this isn't just the past, it's the silence of the present. If you criticize European colonization, you'll get applause. If you criticize Arab colonization, you'll get death threats. That's how taboo the subject is. It's been buried so deep that even mentioning it is treated like blasphemy. But silence is what allows the colonization to live on. It's why African school children learn Arabic prayers but not their own pre-Islamic history. It's why Bangladeshi youth will defend the caliphate on Twitter but have no idea who their Buddhist ancestors were. It's why whole nations still can't imagine freedom without submission to someone else's imported god. The real decolonization. So here's the fire we're ending on. Decolonization isn't complete until the Arab Empire is named, shamed, and dismantled. Africa can't just cut the cross and keep the crescent. Asia can't just kick out Europe but keep Arabia. Freedom means going deeper. It means breaking every foreign chain, Christian or Muslim. It means remembering who we were before anyone told us to bow east. And that's the battle of our time. Not just fighting poverty, not just fighting corruption, but fighting memory loss, reclaiming what was stolen, resurrecting what was buried, refusing to keep polishing the boots that have been on our necks since 640 AD. Because the truth is simple, until Africa and Asia kill the Arab colonizer in the mind, they will never be free.